Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel.
The truth emerges, Tracy's critical discovery. The tension surrounding Monica Quartermain's will had been building for weeks, with various family members and associates scrambling to understand what the matriarch had left behind. However, Tracy Quartermain, ever vigilant about family interests and the protection of the Quartermain legacy, made a discovery that would change everything. After searching through Monica's personal effects and documents, Tracy found the authentic will, and it told a vastly different story than the one that had been circulating throughout Port Charles. The will that had previously been presented claimed that Monica had bequeathed the Quartermain estate and its considerable assets to Ronnie. Drew Quartermain, eager to reclaim what he believed should be his birthright or secure his financial independence, had been in active negotiations to purchase the Quartermain mansion from Ronnie. The deal was moving forward rapidly, and it appeared that one of Port Charles's most iconic residences would soon be transferred to a man who had grown increasingly antagonistic toward his own family. But Tracy knew something wasn't right. Her instincts about the will had been correct, and when she located the genuine document, her suspicions were validated. The original will bore Monica's authentic signature and was completely different from what had been presented. Realizing the implications and knowing that she needed to act quickly, Tracy rushed to stop the signing ceremony before Drew could finalize his purchase of the family home from Ronnie. Time was of the essence, and Tracy moved with the urgency of someone who understood that family legacy, both financial and emotional, hung in the balance. The document verification shock. With the real will in hand, Tracy brought it to Alexis Davis, the respected attorney who had taken on the responsibility of verifying and executing Monica's final wishes. Alexis carefully examined the authentic document, cross-referencing the signature, the witnesses, and all the legal particulars. As Alexis reviewed the contents, her expression shifted from professional concentration to genuine shock. What she was reading was almost impossible to believe. "This can't be right," Alexis murmured, reading the document a second time to ensure she hadn't misunderstood Monica's intentions. The room fell silent as she looked up at Tracy and the assembled family members who had gathered to hear the truth. The authentic will reveal that Monica had decided to leave the entire Quartermain estate and all its assets not to Ronnie, not to Michael, and certainly not to Drew but to Jason Morgan. The decision to leave everything to her adopted son, the man she had raised and cherished despite his deeply troubled history, was Monica's final and most powerful statement of maternal love. For years, Monica had watched Jason become entangled in the criminal underworld, working for crime boss Sonny Corinthos and becoming involved in activities that would have horrified the moral, principled woman she was. Yet she had never stopped loving him, never stopped seeing the good men she believed existed beneath the violence and criminality. Family members gasped. Some appeared relieved that the estate wouldn't fall into Drew's hands, while others seemed confused about Monica's choice to leave everything to someone who had spent most of his adult life as a mob enforcer. The revelation that Monica had left such substantial wealth and property to Jason rather than to her biological descendants sent shockwaves through the assembled crowd. A condition like no other. But the will contained much more than just the revelation of Monica's chosen heir. There was a condition, a remarkable and deeply personal stipulation that reflected everything Monica had believed about Jason's potential and his capacity for change. The assets and the Quartermain mansion would be Jason's, but only if he met a specific and demanding requirement. Jason must completely abandon his life of crime and sever all ties with the Corinthos organization within 30 days. This wasn't a suggestion or a gentle preference. It was a binding condition, the final ultimatum from a mother who had spent years watching the son she loved destroy himself through criminal activity. Monica had made her position clear. This inheritance was an investment in Jason's redemption, opportunity for him to rebuild his life as something more than what he had become. The documents further stipulated what would happen if Jason refused to meet this condition. If he rejected Monica's terms and continued his involvement in organized crime, the entire Quartermain estate, the mansion, the assets, everything would be divided equally among Michael Quartermain, Tracy Quartermain, and the Ellen Quartermain Foundation, a charitable organization that had been established to honor Monica's deceased husband and his memory. She was still trying to save him, Tracy said quietly, understanding her sister-in-law's motivations despite the shock of the will's contents. Even at the end, she was still hoping Jason would choose a different path. The revelation of Monica's knowledge and hope. As the full implications of Monica's will became clear, it became evident that the elder Quartermain had known far more about Jason's activities than he had realized. Monica had been aware, for a considerable time, that Jason was deeply involved in the criminal underworld. She had known about his connection to Sonny Corinthos, about his role in the mob, and about the violence that had become such an integral part of his existence. But rather than confronting him directly or turning away from him entirely, she had held onto hope, a mother's eternal hope that her son would one day choose redemption. Jason always had the potential to be a doctor, Michael said, reflecting on Monica's dreams for her adopted son. She never let go of that vision, even when it seemed impossible. The will itself was a final plea, a last expression of Monica's faith in Jason's capacity to change. By tying the inheritance to his complete exit from criminal life, Monica was telling Jason one final time, "I believe in you. I believe you can be better than this. This is your chance." Britt's impossible choice. The revelation of Monica's conditions placed Britt Westburn in an agonizing position. Britt, who had been developing genuine romantic feelings for Jason, now faced a terrible decision. Jason was finally showing signs of real change, of opening his heart to the possibility of a life beyond violence and crime. But would he be willing to make the radical transformation that Monica's will demanded? He could have everything, Britt said to a confidant, her voice filled with the weight of conflicted emotion. A real home, security, a fresh start. But only if he's willing to let go of everything else: Sonny, the organization, the mob life. He has to choose, and I don't know if he can. For Britt, the situation represented both hope and heartbreak. If Jason could meet Monica's conditions, they might have a genuine future together. But if he couldn't or wouldn't let go of his criminal life, she would have to make an equally painful choice: continue pursuing a relationship with a man who would never truly be free, or walk away from the man she was beginning to love. Drew's outrage and his own legal troubles. Drew Quartermain's reaction to the revelation was explosive and immediate. He felt betrayed, marginalized, and cheated of what he believed should have been his family inheritance. His plans to purchase the Quartermain mansion from Ronnie had been stopped at the last moment, and now he found himself facing a will that left him with nothing while giving everything to Jason. "This is a travesty," Drew declared, his voice cold with fury. Jason has spent his entire life as a criminal, and Monica rewards him with everything. "I'm a congressman. I'm legitimacy. I'm what this family should be standing behind, and instead." But Drew's outrage was about to become the least of his concerns. As the investigation into the false will deepened and Martin Quartermain was arrested for his role in the document forgery, questions began to arise about whether others had been involved in the conspiracy. Had Martin acted alone, or had he been working with someone else? The evidence began to suggest that Drew might have been complicit in the scheme. "Did you know about the forged will?" investigators asked Drew, their questions becoming increasingly pointed and accusatory. Drew's denials rang increasingly hollow as evidence emerged suggesting a connection between him and the fraud. The man who had been so eager to purchase the family estate, the man who had stood to benefit enormously if Ronnie legally owned the property, suddenly found himself facing possible charges related to conspiracy and attempted fraud. Martin's arrest and Laura's shame. Martin Quartermain, the family lawyer and the architect of the scheme to create a false will, was arrested immediately. The evidence against him was overwhelming. He had forged Monica's signature, created false witness signatures, and orchestrated the entire conspiracy to transfer the Quartermain assets to Ronnie with the understanding that they would eventually make their way to Drew. For Laura Collins, Martin's sister, the revelation was crushing. She had always known that Martin was flawed, sometimes morally questionable, but she had never imagined he would sink to this level of criminality. The shame of having a brother arrested for such a serious crime weighed heavily on her, as did the knowledge that her family had been divided and devastated by his actions. "I didn't want to believe it," Laura said, her voice trembling as she confronted the reality of her brother's crimes. "I kept hoping there was an explanation, that he was being falsely accused. But the evidence is clear. He did this terrible thing, and now the family has to suffer for it." Jason's 30-day reckoning. As all the chaos unfolded around him, Jason Morgan found himself facing the most significant choice of his life. Monica's will had given him an incredible gift, the chance to own the home where he had grown up, to secure wealth and stability, to build the kind of life that seemed impossible given his history. But the price was steep. He had to become someone different. 30 days. That was the window Monica had given him. 30 days to walk away from Sunny, to sever all ties with the Corinthos organization, to leave behind a life that had defined him for years. For someone so deeply embedded in the criminal world, 30 days might as well be impossible. But there was more to it than just logistics. Leaving the mob meant betraying Sunny, who had taken him in and given him purpose. It meant abandoning the only identity he had known since losing his memories. It meant becoming a stranger to himself unless, somewhere deep down, there was still a man who remembered wanting to be a doctor, a man who dreamed of a different life. As Jason sat alone, Monica's will in his hands, he had to confront a question he had been avoiding for years. Was he capable of change? Could he become the man Monica believed he could be? Or was he too far gone, too committed to a life of crime to ever escape it? The answer would not only determine his own future, but would also shape the futures of everyone around him. Britt, who was willing to stand beside him if he chose redemption, Michael, who desperately wanted his brother back, Tracy, who had fought to ensure the truth was revealed, and Sunny, who would have to face losing the most loyal enforcer he had ever known. Port Charles held its breath as Jason Morgan faced the greatest challenge of his life, armed with his adoptive mother's final gift and her unshakable faith in his capacity for redemption. In 30 days, he would either become the man Monica always believed he could be, or the Quartermain estate would be divided, and Jason would remain forever bound to the criminal underworld that had claimed so much of his life. The choice was his alone to make. But the weight of Monica's love expressed through this final, impossible condition would be with him every single moment of those 30 days. Next, Martin Gray's confession and the consequences ahead. By Tuesday, Martin's guilt finally catches up with him. He's not the kind of man who can handle the weight of his own lies for long, and Laura Collins becomes his unexpected confidant. Their tense conversation reveals the depth of Martin's betrayal, how his manipulation of Monica's will was meant to humiliate Tracy but instead set off a chain reaction of chaos. Laura, always the moral compass of Port Charles, pushes Martin to do the right thing before things spiral even further out of control. But will he listen? His fear of losing his license, his reputation, and maybe even his freedom might keep him silent longer than he should be. Still, rumors swirl that by Thursday, Martin's secret will no longer be his to control. Tracy's determination to reclaim the Quartermain legacy ensures that every lie buried in that will is about to come to light, and Drew, caught in the crossfire, may not survive the fallout with his career or relationships intact. A power shift in Port Charles. While the Quartermains implode from within, Port Charles itself braces for another major shakeup. Brennan's cryptic warning to Lulu about Valentin's proximity wasn't just idle gossip, it was a sign of things to come. Valentin Casadini is returning to Port Charles, and he's not sneaking back quietly. After serving the remainder of his sentence, Valentin's release marks a turning point for the town. His reappearance couldn't come at a worse or better time, depending on who you ask. Valentin has always been a wild card, equally capable of heroism and betrayal. But this time, he's stepping into a storm that's already raging. His partnership with Carly Corinthos is one of the most unexpected alliances in recent GH history. The two have been quietly aligning their resources to take down Brennan, who's been tightening his grip on Port Charles through manipulation and intimidation. When Valentin makes his grand return on Thursday, it's not just a comeback, it's a declaration of war. By Friday, viewers can expect a long overdue strategy session between him and Carly where plans are made, secrets are exchanged, and trust is tested. Together, they might just be the power duo capable of dismantling Brennan's operation once and for all. The next generation takes action. Meanwhile, another drama is unfolding among Port Charles' younger residents. While the adults are busy with wills, secrets, and revenge plots, Emma Scorpio Drake and Gio Santiago have quietly been piecing together their own master plan. Their target, Professor Dalton, a name that's becoming increasingly sinister by the day. Dalton has been playing a dangerous game under everyone's noses, and when Emma catches him speaking to none other than Britt Westburn, the infamous Britch, alarm bells go off. Britt, though presumed out of the picture, seems to be entangled in Dalton's work, which may trace back to none other than Caesar Fayson's final experiment. Yes, the ghost of Fayson's evil continues to haunt Port Charles, and the younger generation is now caught in its web. Emma, ever her mother's daughter, refuses to stay silent. She ropes in Gio, Charlotte Casadini, Danny Morgan, and Rocco Falconeri to form a united front. Together, they begin tracking Dalton's movements, decoding his research, and uncovering connections that even the adults have missed. What started as teenage curiosity soon turns into a full-fledged operation that could expose one of the deadliest conspiracies in town history. Fayson's legacy and the hidden threat. The revelation that Dalton and Britt are involved in Fayson's final project sends shockwaves through those who know the Casadini and Westburn legacies all too well. Dalton, once a respected academic, has become obsessed with finishing Fayson's work, a program designed to manipulate human behavior through advanced neurotech. Britt, lured by promises of redemption and recognition, may not realize how far Dalton is willing to go. Only a handful of Port Charles residents, Anna, Robert, and Spinelli among them, have an inkling of how dangerous this situation truly is. As Emma's group inches closer to the truth, they risk exposing themselves to forces that could destroy them. Dalton's experiments have already crossed ethical lines, and Britt's involvement adds another layer of betrayal to the story. This storyline isn't just about revenge or family drama anymore. It's about legacy, how the sins of one generation infect the next. As Dalton's project gains momentum, the young heroes of Port Charles may be the only ones who can stop it before it spreads beyond control. Tracy Quartermain's triumph and Drew's downfall. The week kicks off with Tracy Quartermain doing what she does best, uncovering secrets that others thought were buried for good. After stumbling upon Monica's recoil, Drew, who's been walking a fine line between family loyalty and business ambition, suddenly finds himself backed into a corner. What's most surprising this time is that Drew isn't the villain of the story. He's been manipulated by forces far more cunning, starting with the slick-talking attorney Martin Gray. Drew's frustration reaches its peak when he realizes that Monica's will was tampered with not for profit, but out of spite. Martin, in his endless quest for payback against Tracy, never imagined his petty revenge would spiral into a full-blown Quartermain civil war. What lies ahead? By week's end, every storyline collides. Tracy's victory may come at a price as the Quartermain family fractures yet again. Drew's trust in Martin will be shattered, and Laura's moral influence might not be enough to stop the legal and emotional carnage that follows. Valentin's return redefines the balance of power, especially if his partnership with Carly holds strong. And in the shadows, Emma's crusade against Dalton and Britt hints at a looming crisis that could unite the entire town against a common enemy. This is the kind of week that reminds viewers why General Hospital has lasted for generations: layered storytelling, complex characters, and twists that keep fans guessing. With betrayal, redemption, and revenge all colliding at once, Port Charles is heading for one of its most dramatic chapters yet. So stay tuned, because when it comes to General Hospital, one thing's certain: the past always comes back, and it never comes back quietly.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye.